Lord, give me strength. We are at part 2 of my beginner's guide to Clerics, so if you haven't seen the first one, be sure to check it out. This video will continue that one, going over the remaining 7 clerical domains, so let's not waste any time. Christ is watching. Now, if you thought the trickery domain was far too unconfrontational, and you want to murder as many monsters, animals, buildings, and snarky NPCs as you can, pick up the war domain. War clerics are beasts on the battlefield, and if you see one, and you haven't started running, it's already too late. You get proficiency with heavy armor and martial weapons, you gain an additional attack as a bonus action, and you can attack again a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. That's a total of 6 attacks per turn if you max out your wisdom and aren't stingy with your channel divinities. Goodness, it's like every single class has a subclass that really clowns on the Berserker Barbarian by doing their job better. Now, here's a real kicker. Your channel divinity gives you a plus 10 to your attack rolls. Plus 10. And you can add it on after you've made the roll. If I was a goblin, I would just jump headfirst onto a war cleric's greatsword and save us both the trouble. But what's better than you getting a plus 10 on your attack rolls? Giving that plus 10 to someone else. If you are smart with your limited channel divinity uses, nothing will stand in your way. Aside from those, you get a basic Divine Strike and resistance to non-magical weapons, but these don't come until 17th level. Still, if you ever wondered what would happen if the Mormons woke up one day and chose violence, pick up a War Cleric. Have you ever wanted to study to become a wizard, but your parents made you go to Sunday school instead of Hogwarts? That's basically what the Arcane domain is. Arcane clerics are those that worship gods of magic and are privy to magical secrets via their divine connection. Let's get the usual out of the way. Proficiency in Arcana, wizard cantrips, potent spellcasting, additional spells, yada yada. Your channel divinity is where it gets really interesting. It's called Arcane Abjuration, which lets you point at a magical being from another plane of existence and tell them that they can either go home or start paying rent. It's turn undead, but for celestials, elementals, fays, and fiends. At first, you just make them run away, but soon you can just snap your fingers and poof, they're banished for a full minute. This is highly situational, and it makes me think that I'm supposed to be a guardian of the material plane, but your next ability lets your healing spells cleanse allies of negative effects. But after that, you get a goodie bag of spells from the wizard spell list. You can't just throw a bunch of abilities that do different things into a blender and call it a subclass. All joking aside, this subclass is just as powerful as any other, and I can really see the appeal. Just don't fall victim to being spoiled for choice. Although if you're playing Cleric, you're already screwed on that front. Hey, you ever wondered why the hero gets to swing a magical sword around and doesn't give a second thought to the smith who made the magic sword? Well, the Forge domain lets you be both magical sword crafter and magical sword swinger. Whereas the War Cleric was meant to be a damage dealer, the Forge Cleric is tankiness in its tankiest form. You get proficiency with heavy armor and smith's tools, you can turn non-magic items into magic items, giving that item either a +1 to attack and damage if it's a weapon, or a +1 to AC if it's armor. Your channel divinity lets you create arms and armor, as long as you have money or items of equal value to give in return, because we follow the laws of equivalent exchange in this household. You become so used to the heat of the forge that you get resistance and soon immunity to fire. And if you're wearing heavy armor, you get even more AC and resistance to non-magical damage. Oh, and you also get a divine strike of fire. The Forge domain makes me feel like I am the Forge come to life and I have chosen violence. Now, if you want death to be less of a permanent tragedy and more of an inconvenience, pick up the Grave domain. A warning to all dungeon masters: if your party has a Grave Cleric in it, focus fire on that bitch. Otherwise, the party will never die, and death has no consequence. Grave Clerics recognize that death is a part of life, often worshipping a god of death or the dead, making your abilities a blend between life and death. You get Spare the Dying as a cantrip with a bonus range of 30 feet, and you can heal someone to their max HP if they are already at 0 hit points. You get Potent Spellcasting, you can sense the undead in any area, you can give vulnerability to targets as a channel divinity, you ignore critical hits, and you heal yourself every time a person dies. As a player, this is one of those subclasses that makes me feel invincible. As a DM, this is one of those subclasses that makes me want to throw even more dangerous things at the party, and my relationship with this domain will forever be love-hate. But if you thought that was a load of bull, then you're gonna love this. The Twilight domain is an even more annoying subclass to deal with. These clerics specialize in darkness, but darkness domain sounds too much like a slang term for a hot topic, so they went with Twilight. They get dark vision up to 30 feet, and can share that dark vision with their friends. If that sounds wicked OP to you, that's because it is. Even if you play it smart with the darkness, a range of 300 feet makes the party lose pretty much all fear of the dark. Traps and ambushes become moot, and the Underdark might as well change its name to just the Under, while your party laughs at the Drow's puny 120-foot dark vision. You can also grant advantage to your friends' initiative rolls, you get an aura that grants temp HP every turn, you can fly in dark and dim light, you get a divine strike, and you can create a bubble of darkness to give yourself and your allies half cover. I remember reading this subclass in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything for the first time, and the first thing I thought of was, uh-oh, because I greenlit this subclass for my party at the time. I'm glad none of them went with this one, because how the hell do I make anything challenging for this domain? Constant temp HP? I could just deal more damage, but they would always get the temp HP back every turn and make the fight a grind fest. Constant flight and insane dark vision? You could have magical light, but this cleric can make magical darkness with ease. Anything I can think of to subvert this domain's power just feels like a dick DM move that would 100% piss off the player. If you really want to play this subclass, sit down with your DM and go through it with a fine-toothed comb if ye have any mercy. But if all you want is a moment's peace, then the peace domain is right here for you. This domain focuses on defense and buffs rather than heals and damage. You get proficiencies, of course, but you also get the ability to bind people together like a get-along t-shirt. The bonded peeps get permanent guidance and more benefits as the cleric levels up, including adding a third wheel to the party. You also get a channel divinity that lets you glide around, avoid attacks, and heal nearby allies. Your bonded allies can swap places to even out damage. You get potent spellcasting, and the bonding together is eventually so strong that it gets double damage and protects those party members from all incoming attacks. If you believe that the power of friendship can let you overcome insane odds, try out the peace domain. Okay. One more, then I'm done. The Order domain is for clerics that want to uphold the law above all else, and detractors will be detained. You get proficiency in heavy armor and either intimidation or persuasion. You have the power to make your allies attack whenever you cast spells. You can lay down the law by charming everyone around you. Enchantment spells get a speed boost. You get a psychic divine strike, and you can curse those that get hit by your divine strike so they take even more damage from your allies. This subclass is the master of crowd control, and it is great at making you feel like you are the law. It's over. I can rest now. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had a good time. Be sure to comment how you run your clerics down below. Maybe like and subscribe for more Dungeons & Dragons videos in the future, and maybe support me on Patreon if you are a merciful deity. And don't forget to have fun on your next adventure.